Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is going to be a box opening of the official Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Battle System, a fantasy combat supplement. So a bit of a story of this, kind of like a hit and miss on eBay for me with this. I wanted to get this battle system because if you watch my most recent video where I was talking about the BroSR and their emphasis on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, playing the rules as raw, which means rules as written, and focusing on mass combat and what they consider to be the true way of playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is that focus on tabletop wargaming in my final conclusion of to what they're really talking about doing, and then tying that into AD&D First Edition, I believe much more strongly than it actually implies in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But I wanted to get my hands on the box set, and so my hit or miss on eBay this time around was the fact that I saw a copy of the box. The box was advertised as it appears to be complete, and it has unpunched counters and everything supposedly in there. And I looked at a couple of the photos and I was like, all right, this looks pretty good. And, it was $70. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go get it. So I order it. It arrives very quickly. And I start looking through it. And, I had a real issue with it because it came without the rule books. And I got hung up on the fact that it said it appears to be complete, and yet on the back of the box here, it lists all of the things that are supposed to be contained in here. And, long story short, I contacted the seller and, basically complained. I was like, you used the term, appears to be complete. And he suggested, well, I provided pictures. And so you should have been able to tell from the pictures that, that it was in fact not complete. And I was like, then, it was a bad process. It was a very bad discussion. One of the very, very, very rare occasions that that I felt that it was poor communication and just there was no acceptance on the seller that he had misrepresented the item. And then he was like, well, if you send it back to me, I'm going to charge a restock fee, which is insane to me. But I was like, all right, well, I'll probably end up doing that by tomorrow. And then I looked around and I found the rule books, pretty much just the rule books and a couple other accessories for $17. And I said, you know what? I'm going to buy those. It was free shipping and handling on that. And, I ended up paying about $90 all said and done for a more complete, and now appears to be very complete box set. So every once in a while, you kind of get burnt when you're buying these things, and you'll come across a seller that that isn't very easy to manage with. So bad experience, but I still, I think came out with something that I'm happy to at least have, and that's what I'm going to show off today. So here we have the box set here. The box itself, it does have this little, this little hole in it that you can see there. I'll probably just put a little piece of tape here so it doesn't get worse. It's not like I have any anticipation of ever selling these things anyway. These are just meant to have, use, have on the shelf, and kind of complete a collection, as it is. So Awesome artwork. As you can see, the box itself is pretty sturdy other than that one little hole. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now, here is the, here is the rule book. And I'll do a little flip through of this here just to do a semi preview of this. And but that was missing from the original set or the original purchase. There's a scenario book, so it gives you a suggestion on how to set up various combat scenarios with heroes and and some army rosters pre-slugged. A lot of them Dragonlance, so that's pretty cool. Dragonlance is is very prominent in this here. So and Dragonlance is big in the news today. So that's an interesting thing. Oh, let me get the date on this. Oh, so this is March 1985. This is the first printing. So March 1985. So this actually released around the time that I went to Gen Con 18. So, that's pretty cool. In the box, it came with just one of the generals. It's supposed to have two, but got one of those. I don't use lead figures anyway. In the box set that I bought, it came with this army pad or the army roster sheets, although a majority of them are filled in with. But the second packet that I did purchase came with a completely unused booklet, so kind of made out in the deal there. There's the Art of Three-Dimensional Gaming. And they are this here is like a painting guide, so pretty cool, and how to construct the 3D constructions that are inside this box set as well. So that's a nice thing to have. I absolutely cannot paint, so any figures that I do have are completely unpainted. Whether they're plastic or metal, all of them completely unpainted. So this is the total unused roster kit that came with the set, with the second set that I bought for $17. It comes with both the original box set that I bought and the backup I bought comes with player card aids, and this gives you a nice breakdown of what you're supposed to do from start to finish, basically order of sequence and such, and and the various weather effects and other things that you would modify. So good chart that every player gets one of these. So they gave quite a few. And like I said, since I bought it a second time, I have a double number of these. So now I have enough to have multiple, more than just 4 players. But even more than that, should I ever decide to go through at that. Now, this is the biggest selling point of the initial purchase that I made. And that's the fact that it has unpunched counters. Now, it's very easy to find counters online. You can just go on Pinterest and get all kinds of counters for free, and you can amass huge armies doing it that way as well. So, and this is sheet after sheet. There's about 4 total sheets of just counters. Excuse my asthma. It's that season, and my asthma is absolutely crazy this time of the year. So here is, now this is complete, uncut, unmodified here. So here's a hut, and looks like a catapult and everything that you can cut out and and actually create. And that little guide actually shows you how to set it up. So I would just make a photocopy of this and just cut it and have it on. I have some pretty heavy paper anyway, like a 65-pound weight paper that would function very similar to this anyway. It's not super thick. Actually, the 65 weight might be even heavier than this. Here's a little cobblestone flooring. Looks like you also cut that out. Here's surprisingly not a hex map, but there's a map here of a forest, treetops. These are walls. And you can cut them out in sections and then place them on the on the board. This here are tree trunks that you cut and create, and some more walls and treetops. Now this is the second set that I got with the other. So if I wanted to, I could, cut them out. Whoever had this actually did that with some tree trunks, so they already did that. And I have a second one of these, which is kind of unnecessary. And here's the bottom of the box. The bottom of the box is pretty solid too. A little tiny staining or whatever, but nothing really major to deal with, to worry about. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch to taking a look at the books and the rosters and such. So I am going to switch views here. And let's start taking a look at this here, the battle system. Now, although I saw a PDF of this online, I haven't bothered with it yet. But here we have an introduction to the battle system, the sequence of play, counter, scale, and unit organization, setting it up, the morale, discipline, and command system, the basic game. So just it explains to you the initiative phase, the rally phase, the movement phase, and then the melee phase. The intermediate game, you start dealing with the heroes and commanders, missiles and artillery, special forms of movement. And then the advanced game is weather conditions and night battles, special creature abilities, magic, flying movement and combat, and campaign rules. So it really is designed for you to play a couple scenarios at the very basic level, then move on to intermediate, and then move on to advanced as you become more and more comfortable with the system. Once again, sorry about the coughing. So the main part of the game design was Douglas Niles. As you can see, Michael Dobson was the coordination and editing, John Myers, graphic design, Jeff Easley, the cover art, Dennis Koff, 3D figures. So he did the design of the counters. Steve Winter, the art of the 3D gaming booklet. Dave LaForce and Dave Sutherland, the cartography. Doug Ham, the photography. And then design consulting with Zeb Cook, Bruce Nesmith, John Pickens, Frank Metzner, Michael Dobson. Play testing, I can't really extend it, was Nesmith, Zeb Cook, Steve Winter, Curtis Smith, Jeffrey Grubb, John Pickens, Ed Solers, Bob Morris, and Bruce Hurd. And they go through the introduction. Now, I was kind of surprised. Like, I was expecting a system that read like it was like kind of simple. And this is, I wouldn't say it's very complex, but it's also not very simple either. So it's somewhere in between. It's pretty dense reading, and I started going through it and seeing that there's more to the process of just moving pieces and making a couple rolls on some chart to see how things are resolved and such. And there is obviously various things about discipline and command and positioning and just a much more tactical look at it than I was really anticipating. They talk about formations and the type of formation. So you have open formations. You'll have what's called skirmish formations, mob formations, which are very disorganized, and they have different categories of type of combat units. So skilled combat units can move in closed formations and open formations. Skirmish formations don't require a commander, and they tend to be a little bit more freeform. This is like your scouts, your saboteurs, your spies, and such. Mobs are completely untrained, low level, generally speaking, with actual disadvantages in combat because of the lack of leadership and because of the lack of skill in mass combat. Their only real advantage is sheer numbers. And so it does go into the differences in the types of formation and their effects on their combat effectiveness and the modifiers that they get in overall successes and such. So again, like I said, it was much more nuanced than I thought it was going to be. Not as simple as I thought it was going to be, but still not unmanageable. It's still a fairly understandable system. We go into movement, like forced marches, charging, withdrawing from combat, routes, and how you manage a route. The melee phase goes in here. You talk about the basic procedures, who is eligible to attack at any given time. Weapons in hand, determining attack ratings, the melee procedures, and I will go into more detail with this. This is just an initial flip through. The intermediate game focuses on heroes and commanders and their effect on the battlefield. Missiles and artillery, special movements, whether it be cavalry and chariots and such. Advanced game, weather and night battles. Effects of terrain. And I know they get into aerial combat and magic in this section as well. And we have a much more detailed table of contents in the back here, and a combat results table for the dungeon master to have, at his or her disposal. So overall, and then here's the battle scenario book, and I will spend a little bit more time with this battle scenario book when I do the other. I'll just do this real quick. So here's a sample of a hero commander sheet. This is a fighter 14th level. As a commander, he is an army commander. Gives his stats, his effectiveness. Interesting, his weapon is a +2 halberd. He's part of the main body, meant for an advanced scenario. He has a +3 ring of protection. His special abilities or limitations: he can hurl a rock, hurling rocks at 10, 20, 30 inches. Damage 3d10. That's a lot of damage for throwing a rock. But damage modifiers are certainly upgraded in this if you're dealing with mass combat. It's not meant to represent a single throwing of a rock, but multiple rocks being thrown throughout the course of a battle. And we'll take a real quick look at one army roster. So they give you quite a few. They give you a lot here. Here's an army roster. Basic scenario. Army type is a borderland spearhead. Unit name is the Skull Crushers. These are regular ogres. Let's see if they give the unit size as the number of them in the unit size. I believe, based on the size of the creature and such, their units are usually 10 to 1. They're typically 10 to 1. Sometimes they're 5 to 1. And only when it's a hero or special NPC type are they 1 to 1 on the battlefield. Ogres might actually fall under that 5 to 1 category. But we have very, very many things here. Some more. This unit type is regular goblins. Now they certainly. Oh, here's the ratio: 10 to 1. All right, so let's go back to that. I see now on this ratio here. Let's find these ogres I was talking about, and their ratio is 5 to 1. So I was kind of right. I was. So 10 to 1, I believe, is the highest number of the ratio. Here's another 10 to 1. This is regular trolls. Yeah, so large size creatures are going to be 5 to 1 per counter on the board. And then medium sized will be 10 to 1. And I believe small probably fall under that 10 to 1 as well. They compound the damage done to represent multiple within that cluster. So that's why you see 2d4 plus 8 plus another 2d6. That is not each individual doing it, that's the unit. All 5 are dishing out that kind of damage. Here's a Dragonlance scenario. which I said there was a lot of focus on Dragonlance in this, which I was, not expecting. So it really is timely considering that Dragonlance is something that is kind of hot in the news right now. So once again, glad I picked it up. Like I said, regardless of the struggle that it was to actually get it, you could certainly find this on eBay. Hopefully, you have better luck of getting it than I did, as far as not having to buy from multiple sources in order to put the whole thing together. Overall, I probably spent about $10 to $15 more than I was hoping to spend. But ultimately, I'm happy with what I have, picked up, and it is something I would certainly take a look at and see. Now, would I integrate this into using in my regular AD&D campaign? Probably not. I kind of look at it and looking through the rules and everything. This is if I just wanted to have a mass combat game session, with my players, whether it be, I really don't see it connecting up with our campaign, unless I purposely kind of steered it that way and had it go that way. But for the most part, just nice to see, hey, this is how I can create a small army that they might then encounter and kind of go through like a one-on-one kind of thing, or just role play it out and carry out the regular combat sequences individually, very slow plotting. I have had my players, their group of 9 characters, come up against nearly 40 bandits and nearly 40 hobgoblins, and a pretty massive open field kind of combat situation. This might have streamlined it a little bit, and we could have conducted it that way. Although my players probably don't have access to the battle system, although I can always make copies of it and, convert it to PDF and then share it with them as well. So they at least have the rules in front of them, if not the counters, and then we could use a virtual tabletop in order to replicate the counters and such. So that would be doable. But for the most part, it's nice to have. It's nice to be included in my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition collection. Now I truly am probably very complete on my AD&D First Edition. Have all 13 hardcovers, and now this box set along with the World of Greyhawk box set. So I pretty much have everything I need for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section there, and I will certainly get back to you with them. If you have any suggestions of things you want me to take a look at, now I know I have a couple of people that have suggested I take a look at Steve Jackson Games, fantasy RPG. So it's not the GURPS Fantasy 4th edition, but it's just called Steve Jackson Games Fantasy RPG. And although it kind of uses the GURPS system, I believe, but there's a box set of that floating around that you can still purchase, brand new. And and I will probably take a look at that in the next several weeks to come. I got to purchase it first and then do a walkthrough of it, and it's something I'll certainly take a look at and see, as it was suggested that might become my replacement game for fantasy RPGs. So that certainly remains to be seen, but I will definitely take a look at it. It does look good. It looks interesting. So that's how I use my comment section sometimes. Is people will leave suggestions. You're welcome to do so, and if it's something that I have an interest in, I'm able to buy it, then I'll certainly consider that, pick it up, and then do a video on it. So once again, thanks for joining. Hope you liked this video. And finally, have a great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. Have a great afternoon.